All right. Good morning, boys and girls. Today, I am going to teach you about a narrative. The very first thing you're going to need is a writing utensil. You are not going to need your stuff up to writing colors because today we're writing a narrative story, and a narrative story is a story. It's the stories that you see in my library. It's the Diary of a Wimpy Kid. It's a Magic Treehouse. It's stories you read about and stories that you've loved. That's what a narrative is. It's a story. There's actually three types of different narratives. There is a nonfiction narrative, which is a true story, such as the stories you read about Dr. Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks, even Dolly Parton in my library. Those are nonfiction narratives. You also have an imaginative narrative, and that's a fiction, and it tells a story about a child growing up um, in outer space, something like that. It's imaginative. And then you have a personal narrative, which is a true story told by the person themselves. So that is if you were going to be writing a story about your life. That's called a personal narrative. But the bottom line is a narrative is a story. So what you're going to do is you're going to get your notebook and you're going to open it up to this side right here. Over here on this side, I'm going to put my graphic organizer. That way, when I write my story over here, I have my graphic organizer right here on the left-hand side, and I don't have to flip and turn pages and try to find it. I'm nice and organized. So whenever we go to write in 6th grade, we are going to open this up, and we are going to have our outline on the left side, and then our story or writing on the right side. All right, so in a narrative, there are a couple of things. The first thing that we have are characters. Now, I would keep my characters down a limit to like 2. Once you go into too many characters, then it gets a little crazy and a little hairy, and we lose sight of some of the characters. All right. The next thing that a narrative has is there is a setting or where it takes place. Where is it going to take place? I don't know. All right. Okay. It also has a problem. And with that also, it also has a solution. So I'm going to set up my paper just like this. And along with this that I'm writing, I'm also going to attach a Google slide. And it will also have this on there. But I like to write it out so that I kind of know exactly what my purpose is of my story. All right. Problem solution. All right, and then we're going to go into an event. This is the first event that happens in the story. So I'm going to write one event, and then I'm going to write another event that happens. This is what happens in the middle of your story. Okay, and notice the boxes are small because we're kind of just jotting things down and we're jotting notes in here. So we're not going to be writing full sentences in here. I'm going to be jotting some notes over here, but I'm going to make sure I have all my parts of a narrative story, which is the character, the setting, a problem, a solution, event 1, event 2, event number 3. Okay. And then this next box is going to be a little bit bigger because in this one, I'm going to write dialogue. And dialogue is the talking that happens in the story. All stories have talking points or the characters speak. And so we need to leave some spots where we are going to definitely put that in there. We've got the characters, we've got the problem, we got the solution, we've got the event 1, 2, 3, 4. We got some dialogue. And then if we have any room down here on the bottom, we can just talk about like our opening and our closing. Or is there a theme? Is there a lesson to be learned? Okay, we can leave it right down here at the bottom. All right, so let's start off with our characters. I know it's really hard because some of you guys are such good readers. You guys have read so many stories, and it's very easy to copy, like Finding Nemo. or The Lion and the Mouse, but a narrative is imaginative. So you need to really like think about being creative. So try not to copycat any other story you've heard just by changing the characters. Okay, so I am going to have, there's going to be a cat in the story, and his name is going to be Henry. So I am going to capitalize Henry. And the cat's problem is that he's bored. Okay, and then there's going to be a bird in the story, and her name is going to be, I don't know, Goldie. And I'm going to capitalize that too. And Goldie is actually really, really clever. Okay. Now, if you can think of some adjectives right here to describe your characters, that would be rad. So if I have like just happy, I could look in the thesaurus and come up with other words that mean happy so that I can jazz it up and fancy Nancy my story. Okay. All right. It is going to be taken place at the Jones residence. A residence is just a fancy word for house. Okay. And the problem is going to be that Henry is lonely and bored. And the solution is going to be, Goldie's not going to like this, he eats Goldie. Ah! It's going to be a sad kind of story, okay? So now I've got to talk about, when I'm talking about my events 1, 2, 3, and 4, this is kind of like my outline of what's going to happen in the beginning of the story, what's going to happen in the middle of the story, and then what's going to happen in the third part of the story. So the event 1 is going to be where Henry is left alone while, ooh, fancy, while his family is on vacation. His family is on vacation. So his family is going out and having a great, fabulous time, and poor Henry the cat is just stuck at home all by himself, and he's very, very bored. And in the middle of the story, Goldie is going to give Henry lots of ideas. Goldie will come up with many ideas. So Goldie's gonna come have some fly into the perch. She's an outside character. She doesn't live in the house, and she's going to come and fly to the perch because she goes and talks to Henry, and she's gonna give him like a whole bunch of ideas to do. And then finally, Henry decides, you know what? I'm not bored. I'm actually hungry. To eat Goldie. It's gonna be sad. Okay. All right. Now over here, I'm gonna write something that Henry can say, and over here I'm gonna write something that Goldie is gonna say. And in that section, I'm gonna make sure that I throw these dialogues into my story. So Henry, I'm gonna start with my talking marks right here. Henry's gonna say, "I am so bored." Period, and then my talking marks. I'm also going to have Henry say, because Goldie's going to give Henry a lot of ideas, right? So I'm going to use my talking marks. I'm going, no, I don't like that. I don't like that idea. And then I'm going to put my period, and then I'm going to do my talking marks. Notice again, these are not all complete sentences. These are just ideas that I can write down so that I can transfer them into my story, okay? And then I'm going to think about some things that Goldie can say in the story. So can you think about some things that Goldie can say? The bird, let's see, Henry, she's going to say, Henry, what's wrong? So I'm going to put that into my story somewhere. Ooh, I got to put a question mark there. and put it in between before my dialogue, right? And I can't really think of much more for Goldie, so I'm kind of good right now, because we also don't, when we're writing narrative, we don't want it to just be all talking back and forth and Goldie said and Henry said and Goldie said and Henry said. We don't want that either, okay? All right, now the theme of the lesson is, I think Goldie's probably going to learn her lesson, is sometimes sometimes people don't want to listen, right? Because Goldie's going to give a whole bunch of ideas. If you have anything else to write for your story, you can put it right down here, okay? Now, the best part about this organization right here is that, look at you guys, I have all of my stuff right here, okay? And I can use a marker as I check it off right in here as I write it here. So the very first thing I'm going to do on this side is I'm going to indent with my story right here. And I really want you to be thinking about, I want you to try to get in at least one character and the setting and the problem in the very first sentence of your story. I really want you to be thinking about that, okay? When you open up a story of your favorite book, I want you to be thinking about, it starts off with like one rainy day, one rainy cold day. Sarah was lost in a forest, right? Or during the winter storm, Sally couldn't find her mom. Most of your guys' stories, when you open a book, starts off like that. It's not going to say, today I'm going to talk about a story. It's a narrative. And so your very first sentence, you really want to drag in your reader to get your story going. And the best part about this over here is that I have it all organized so I can kind of throw it in here. Now, what I'm not going to do, what I am not going to do is, I'm not going to copy this right here, because this is not a story. The Jones residence, Henry is lonely, bored, he eats Goldie, Henry leaves him alone. No, I'm not going to do that, okay? Also, a no. All right, so I'm going to try to, in my very first sentence, I'm going to try to say the problem and a setting, and I'm going to mention my main character, which is Henry, okay? All right, so a very good thing to do, and I don't have it with me right now, is the green Step Up to Writing book. It is phenomenal. For any type of writing, you should definitely have that green Step Up to Writing book. It is key. All right, so mine happened in the Jones residence, and Henry is lonely and bored, and Henry is a cat, so I want to make sure that everybody knows that he cats, okay? All right, I'm going to start right here. Perched, ooh, that's fancy. Perched high above a city, comma, in a window of the Joneses' house, comma, lived a bored and lonely cat named Henry. Woo! Yes and yes. You know, down here, I kind of left this a little bit open, but you know what is a really good idea? I have a cat and I have a bird. And over here, I can put some things or words or verbs that cats do, or verbs that birds do. So we know that they fly, okay? But also that really fancy word was perched, okay? And a cat jumps and he licks. And if I don't like any of these words, you guys, I can look these up in a thesaurus. I can kind of try to fit them in here. So already in my very first sentence, I have perched high above the city, comma, in a window of the Joneses' house, or I could say residency, but house sounds better there, lived a bored and lonely cat named Henry. And now I'm going to set it up for success, okay? So I gotta say, remember I told you when I was saying that the Jones family went on vacation. So while the Jones family was on vacation to Hawaii, comma, Henry sat sadly in an empty house. Okay, I'm flying high with this one. This is a really great starter of a narrative story because remember, a narrative is a story. And notice how I kind of took some of these ideas and I'm going to put them right over here and I start my story. Now, a lot of students go, hey, Mrs. Blair, how long is my story? Well, I can't really tell you how long your story is because, again, your story is imaginative. And so because your story narrative is a story, you have to decide. Okay, this is what I don't want. I don't want 10 pages of a story and we go and then and then and then and then and then and then. At some point, your story is going to need to end. Okay, you're going to have to decide, is it going to be a happy ending or it's going to be a sad ending? And in real life, guess what? It's not always a happy ending. So be creative. Use your Step Up to Writing book. Use the vocabulary that we use in the morning. Look up thesaurus words. If you don't like it, okay, if I just had sitting right here, maybe I could go back and circle this word right here and go, I don't really like this word sitting, and then that's where I found the word perched. Okay, so be thinking about that. I hope this really helped you out. Again, too, if you look down below, you will see a Google slide of this so you can fill it in, or you can do it on paper. For me, I need to see it on paper so I can put it in my writing notebook and do it like this. I hope my video was helpful, and I can't wait to read your narrative stories. Have fun, be creative, be imaginative. You got this.